Hey you, yes you. Did you ever watch Ready Player One around 5 years ago and think about how awesome the idea of the digital world in it was? Wasn't the possibility of an entire universe filled to the brim with spaceships, fantastical spells, physics-defying technology, and sleek avatars controlled by billions of people from across the globe so tantalizing at the time? Didn't you want it to be real? To lose yourself in the binary code of this digital cityscape so big it's beyond your wildest imaginations? Well, people have tried to make that dream a reality, and spoiler alert, they failed every time they tried it. Let me tell you the stories of the people who failed to sculpt their own universes with programming skills as their clay, as a testament to the hubris and incapability of mankind. This is the Metaverse, the frontier that never was. Okay, if I want to continue any further, I have to mention a couple of topics as a foundation for what is yet to come. The first definition for a metaverse was the idea of a virtual reality-based internet that grew in popularity in the 90s. The word metaverse itself was born in the year 1992 in Neil Stephenson's science fiction novel Snow Crash. Judging by how the book is about people using a metaverse as an escape from a society ran by competing corporations without a federal government to hold things together, it's obvious that the metaverse was created as a cautionary tale instead of something that the author wanted to be real. Neil Stephenson will almost become a prophet later on, so keep this stuff in mind. After the first attempts at VR in the 90s flopped, nothing would become of the idea for a while until VR technology would become fully realized in the 2010s, where the first two ideas for a digital universe were attempted, the very predecessors of the failed metaverses. VR Chat was created in 2014 for VR headset prototypes, and is a network of user-generated worlds and avatars you can explore with the and is a network of user-generated worlds and avatars you can explore with a VR headset or a PC if you're desperate. It was well received at its release and is still functioning in the year 2023, but be warned, it is very shady in its current state with how hard it is to moderate. If you go into it now, you might find some unsavory imagery, or encounter one of the literal gangs they have on there that'll crash your computer for being new. I'm not making this up. Despite its questionable current nature, VR Chat is the closest thing we have to a real metaverse and is the only one to succeed. On the other hand, there's the less successful attempt, No Man's Sky. This has nothing to do with VR and honestly deserves its own video, but it just feels wrong not to mention it. If you were part of the gaming sphere back in 2013 to 2015, you probably heard of No Man's Sky back when it was being announced, and there is no chance you didn't hear about the backlash it got after its launch in August 2016. Before it released, Hello Games, the British development studio that created the game, was making more big promises and grandiose visions than a desperate politician. This was the most hyped indie game of all time. This was supposed to be the next Minecraft and shake the video game industry like a magnitude 9.5 earthquake. And the source of all this hype was the procedural generation. Hello Games did not deliver. The procedural generation behind the game was nowhere near enough to make a whole universe as promised. It only had a finite amount of bases for its planets and aliens, and it exhausted them fast. People caught on, and when the game began repeating aliens over and over again, and people realized they spent $60 precious on an empty promise, a wave of backlash, disappointment, and primal rage coursed through the internet that indie video games have never seen since. They did improve the game later on with updates, and it is pretty fun from what I've experienced, but it will never be the universe that was promised. Forever going down as the worst launch in video game history. And a certain software company will follow like a lemming. After the fall of No Man's Sky and the rebirth of virtual reality, Ready Player One was released and popularized the idea of metaverses in the social sphere. As VR improved, Facebook began making their Oculus headset models get a foothold in the market. But this was no ordinary business venture. This was the foundation of the Tower of Babel. This technology giant that runs a social media site that is notorious for spying on people to the point they got sent to US Congress had the gall to play God and create a blasphemous monolith in its own soulless image and spit upon the real world in all its wonder and intricacy in the process. They were the first to truly realize the vision of the Metaverse. Not some overly ambitious game or VR chat room, but a truly digital society with an economy, social spaces, celebrity endorsement, and everything you've ever dreamed of. What kind of nightmare, by the way? Facebook simply called their monument to corporate arrogance the Metaverse in order to take the term for themselves, but to differentiate it from other Metaverses, we'll call it the Zuckerverse after you know who. Now, Facebook wanted to completely recreate all social life in the virtual hell. And although there isn't solid proof, everyone knows Facebook has some sinister ulterior motives for this. Get your tinfoil hats on, because Mark Zuckerberg wanted complete control over every aspect of your life. And in order for him to do that, he had to put you in a world he had complete moderation and surveillance of. And there's no way to completely confirm it, but if a chicken walks into a den of coyotes and disappears without a trace, you do not need definitive proof to tell that the chicken is dead. Facebook regularly engages in spying on its users on a far higher level than any other social media site. If you make the astronomically huge mistake of downloading Facebook onto your device, you will never truly be able to get rid of it. The app injects bloatware into your device that, as far as I know, only iPhone professionals can truly get rid of. And even if you stay away from Facebook, it will still find ways to spy on you. If somebody you know has you as a contact on their phone and downloads Facebook, Facebook will be able to get your information through contact uploading. Facebook is an inherently evil and condemnable company, and for what moral, normal reason would this evil company try to make a metaverse that tries to completely replicate society in digital form? I am a firm believer that Mark Zuckerberg's end goal for the Zuckerverse is complete control over everyone's social lives, with himself as the golden calf upon it all. This was Mark Zuckerberg's plan to become your Silicon Valley overlord. It didn't work. Whether it was divine judgment for Facebook's hubris or not, the Zuckerverse failed spectacularly. People instantly saw it for the corporate hellscape it was and avoided it like the plague when it released. Also, it was completely useless, but we'll get into that later. This was an astronomically huge blow for Facebook because Zuckerberg went all in on this idea. He made loads of press conferences and ads to trick you into thinking the Zuckerverse was a good idea. He completely rebranded his company from Facebook to Meta. His stock value dropped like a brick. Facebook became a laughingstock in the tech community. And most of all, Mark Zuckerberg lost approximately $13.7 billion in this fiasco. $13.7 billion. With that much money, you could buy around 1,045,801,527 apples, 127,453 Teslas, 228,333 carats of painite, the rarest mineral on the planet, and 2,740,000 cows. That is more money than you and I could ever comprehend. And Facebook blew it all away on some subpar VR chat clone. This is what happens when you try to play God. But unfortunately, people aren't good at learning things, especially when the promise of completely encompassing society into your product is on the table. Another challenger rose up after Facebook's defeat, and their effort is continuing as you're watching this video. If they fail or succeed, it doesn't matter. A cloud of darkness encompasses the future. You, dear viewer, are probably wondering what this invisible menace could be. What new force could be attempting to construct such an ambitious idea as the Metaverse, especially after what happened to Facebook? Who would have the guts to descend into this metaphorical dungeon after seeing Zuckerberg's blood splattered upon its walls? Well, who else could it be other than Roblox? You can't write this! Don't click off the video. I am being completely serious. And Roblox is loud and proud with this too. It's not a crackpot theory. They call themselves a metaverse all the time. Now, you may be thinking that Roblox is calling itself a metaverse to describe its current state as a medieval porridge of user-generated content. But do not be fooled, they genuinely want to finish what Zuckerberg started and fully encompass all social events into their 3D digital space. They have explicitly said they want to have you get your news, social get-togethers, and concerts from their site. They also said they wanted to include dating on a website. That is and always will be filled with children, with a history of questionable stuff happening to them. I don't think I need to explain why this is a terrible idea. But will they achieve this goal? Will this insidious corporation control every aspect of your life until they turn you into a digital serf in the not-so-distant future? No, of course! It's Roblox. Get real. It is a game filled with either kids or dead inside 20-year-olds. It will never catch on with the public in its current state, and even if it did get with the public, it could never achieve the dream its owners had. Roblox is not that social of a game. Most of Roblox is video games. That's the point. It's YouTube for video games, and that's all the creators, the backbone of the site, want it to be. Sure, there are social hangouts, but why would anyone do that if they could go outside or use Discord? If Roblox tried to bend itself into being a digital society, it will destroy the developer base and leave the site lifeless. Creators are the only reason people go on the site, and if the creative differences between them and the company running the site clash too much, it will sink the whole ship for everybody. Roblox is completely delusional for thinking they can ever pull this off. Even if Roblox surpassed all odds with the power of friendship or something, and managed to make it its own digital society while keeping the creators somehow, they do not have the infrastructure to pull it off anyways. They did a promotion with Chipotle, and too many people went on the site, so it got shut down for like 3 days. And even then, even on ordinary days, it just falls apart randomly for like 2 days until they can turn it back on again. And then there's the moderation that they would need to hold it together. The moderation staff that I would not touch with a 10-foot pole. There is some, like, genuinely gross stuff on Roblox as a site, and the moderation is so grossly incompetent and corrupt. There is a guy on YouTube named Ruben Sim. He aired out all of their dirty laundry, so Roblox sued him for $1.6 million. But like everything they claimed was fraudulent, they just wanted to shut him up, so Ruben Sim barely managed to make it by. If you want to see the screwed up stuff the Roblox moderation has done, go see what Ruben Sim has said about it. I am not going to get my hands dirty on that stuff, man, forget it. So if the Zuckerverse was humiliated and the next contender is already set up for failure, you can't help but wonder what is compelling them to do this. And that answer is hubris. 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 Satan wasn't always the embodiment of evil. Far into the ancient past, he was the most beautiful angel in heaven. He let something take root in his mind that drove him to treachery against God, and that was hubris, the chief of all sins. Hubris, pride, arrogance, having a huge ego, it doesn't matter what you call it, it's always the same. It's the delusional belief that you are better than your fellow man and are exempt from the will of God, that you can do whatever you want without caring about the consequences it has on yourself and others, because you believe you're too great to worry about it. The insanity of hubris is at the root of every evil act ever committed, and it is at the very center of the metaverses we have discussed. Mark Zuckerberg had the arrogance to think he could own the social lives of us all. He had the gall to try overthrowing the beauty of God's creation with his digital knockoff of it, and paid for his mistake with $13.7 billion and all of his dignity. Roblox has become drunk with pride and is currently steering itself into an iceberg in an attempt to be something it was never intended to be. Hubris poisoned Facebook's mind with delusional ambitions and lured it into a pitfall, and is currently luring Roblox to the same fate like a siren. And with these two examples, I have a final message for you, dear viewer. Practice humility and keep your head in reality. You are but a simple person and you aren't better than anyone else. No amount of fame or fortune can change that, despite the lies that hubris peddles. If you ever become so consumed with yourself to the point you start stepping on others and opposing the will of God, you will destroy yourself and your insanity as Zuckerberg has. Humbleness is a virtue for a reason. As for the fate of the metaverse itself, it has been hollowed out by brainwashed tech enthusiasts and corporations and left as a husk devoid of meaning and definition. It will never be created because it simply isn't needed. Putting on a VR headset while having advertisements burned into your retinas to work at your job will never be as convenient as doing it on a computer. Attending a meeting in VR is unnecessary when you can have a Zoom call or an email. As for the social aspects, just make a call, use the already existing VR chat, or better yet, go outside. Enjoy the wondrous, beautiful, miraculous world that mankind has inherited, that no mortal work could ever rival. The metaverse is simply a broken solution for an already solved problem. The metaverse will always be a corporate buzzword and nothing more. The metaverse is nothing. The ideas Ready Player One fed into our heads all those years ago were fantasies, and for better or for worse, always will.